You honestly imagine, like, there's rumors of your man, like, hanging out too long with the queen, but you honestly feel like they're just besties, it's fine, and then you end up at the bottom of the stairs. Crazy. Hi, my name is Wendy Weather. I am the History Drag Queen, and welcome to the video where we talk about the mysterious death of Amy Robsart. And we tackle how she may have herself, or maybe it was Queen Elizabeth I who her. First things first, let's set the scene. The scene is the 1550s/1540s. And what had just happened was actually the death of King Henry VIII and the battle for succession. And due to the fact that he had 6 wives, the children were kind of fighting, but the person who ended up with the throne is actually Edward, the boy king. Now, that's just keep in mind that is what's happening and that's what's going on right now. So let's flash to the beginning of our story. Amy Robsart was born in 1532 to 2 gentlemen, kind of gentry farmers. Her father's name was John and her mother's name was Elizabeth. And when I say gentry farmers, I'm not meaning like, you know, kind of like what you picture as like peasant farmers. They're kind of like rich and they kind of are a little bit well off when it comes to farmers of the time and like doing crops, things like that in that nature. And she was the only child of John Robsart and Elizabeth Scott. Now, John, I believe, had either some illegitimate children, and Elizabeth, I think, had some from previous marriages, but she was the only child of those 2. And about 3 days before her 18th birthday, she actually married a man named Robert Dudley. A little bit of background on who Robert Dudley is. He's kind of like the it boy of kind of coming up, you know, in the nobility scene. And when him and Amy first met, oh, he was all about her. He thought she was the most gorgeous thing ever. She's the bee's knees. Could not keep himself away from her. And she was like, oh my gosh, he's so sweet, so nice. Ooh, I kind of like him. Ooh. You know, it was very much seen, even written by Amy's father. It was kind of a love match, like a carnal love match. Like, they were not doing it for, like, just, you know, to rise above the ranks. But they, like, those kids, like, really liked each other. Like, they were, about it. And did it happen to be, like, oh, marrying, you know, Robert Dudley, her family gonna be a little boosted in the rankings? Yeah, because Robert Dudley's dad was basically running the entire country. So, Robert Dudley's dad was the regent for King Edward, the boy king. And Edward, I think, was like 6 or 7 or something. Or like, he was like a child. And basically when that happens, a regent system is kind of put in place to help run the country. And the person who was doing that for Edward was the Duke of Somerset, which was John Dudley, aka Robert's daddy. Okay, but then something kind of unexpected happens. The little boy king, yeah, he got sick and died. He's dead now. So Edward dies, I believe, of tuberculosis or some type of like cold and or respiratory issue. I'm not exactly sure, but that is what occurs. And Amy becomes kind of like this side character not a side character, kind of like an extra in the background of this absolute chaos historical battle that is happening of secession. But around that time, Amy also is just kind of ill. We're not really sure exactly what she has or what kind of like temperament she's having. Like, she's having a lot of like weird like fragility and like issues regarding her health. Like, gets kind of frail sometimes, and like some type of like chronic illness is happening with Amy. She's really not sure what it is, but that is what's occurring to her, in which she's not able to be in like the nobility scene very much, which is why she's kind of absent from it, but she's kind of there in the background. But anyway, after Edward dies, Mary Tudor kind of comes running to the Iron Throne, basically, saying it's hers. Which kind of technically it is. I mean, she was Catherine of Aragon's daughter, the first wife of Henry VIII. She is technically the next one in line of succession, technically regarding things. But Mary was Catholic. And the, state of England, the Church of England, which is what Henry VIII established, was very much a Protestant type of vibe. It was very Protestant, very kind of, not Catholic. And they did not want Mary to be in power and change it back to a Catholic state, because that's not what they wanted. And so, Robert Dudley's daddy, John Dudley, kind of came up with a coup type of situation. And basically, Edward had this cousin who was super Protestant. Her name was Lady Jane Grey. She was this really sweet, pretty girl. That didn't really end well for her. I have another video specifically coming and scheduled for Lady Jane Grey about her life story and everything. But this story is about Amy. This is not about Lady Jane Grey. So, table that. Mary basically comes into power, and John Dudley, Robert's daddy, he was put in prison, and so was Robert, because kind of, threw them all in jail, right? They're all in the Tower of London, whatnot. Well, Mary did not throw Lady Amy in jail. She was not doing that. And she actually didn't throw any of the wives in jail, I'm pretty sure, because she let the wives of the other people she threw in the Tower of London, visit them regularly, and kind of very, liberally, because she was just, I guess about that, I don't know. But anyway, Amy's husband in jail. She's chilling at home, kind of sicky, not really sure what's going on with her. And they're there for a hot minute until Mary basically dies without a child. And the next person in line for the throne becomes Elizabeth, the daughter of Anne Boleyn and Henry VIII, who was Protestant and super, super besties with Robert, Amy's husband. So Elizabeth becomes Elizabeth I, right? We know her as, one of the main queens of England. Well, because she was besties with, the Dudley family, and, she very much liked them, got them all out of jail. I believe Robert was actually executed, I'm pretty sure, because of his whole coup with Lady Jane Grey. But anyway, Robert, totally fine. His dad John, totally killed. Robert, totally fine. Anyway, he goes, immediately back to visit Amy. They're, lovey-dovey, very, amazing, lovely couple, But then Elizabeth kind of becomes, rekindles this, friendship with Robert, because they basically grew up together in kind of, the castles and nobilities and stuff, and they basically were just besties, or, more than bestie. But we don't know that for sure. I'm not going to say things I don't know. But anyway, she basically gives him a title of, I think it's called of the horse. He was in charge of, all of the gallantry and horses and everything for Elizabeth. Which is not, a crazy high-ranking title, but because after she did that, she spent almost every day with him, they were kind of seeing, something's a little different, because that title really doesn't get that close a time with the queen, and other than immediate people her handmaids and stuff like that, and her ladies in waiting, he was one of the only other people that she allowed to touch him, give a hug, touch your arm, just she's the Queen of England, you're not supposed to do that as just the main stable guy, but Elizabeth was he's my bestie. Wink, wink. Anyway. And because of that, Robert is not home with Amy at all. And Amy, she's okay with it. She's not the biggest fan of it. But she just sees it as he is doing his duty to the Queen and his country, and, the country, it's just a whole thing. So Amy is basically just kind of living life as this kind of sick woman at home. She really can't do much. She just is very, very frail. And she's just kind of like an ill woman. She can do some things, but like, she's just very weak, you know? Now, hindsight is 2020. We actually know now that Amy Robsart actually might have had some type of form of cancer. Most likely a type of breast cancer that may have spread to her spinal cord and made her a very chronic, like, you know, illness type of vibe. As there's rumors of her husband spending a lot of time with the queen. She really doesn't think about it. She's just kind of, you know, at home chilling out. Until the day of September 8th, 1560. Now, that day is a little interesting because there was actually a fair going on in the day, and Amy actually had sent all of her workers and servants in the house out. Like, go to the fair, go have a great time. Like, you guys go. Like, go have everybody leave this house at once. Every single one of you, go to the fair right now. She wanted everybody out of the house except for her. Except her main, like, servant woman, I forget what her name was. She did not want to leave, and Amy actually got really pissed off at her. Like, she got up in her space of, like, if you don't go to the fair, I'm gonna cut you. She was like, well, who's gonna stay with you, ma'am? And she was like, fine, you know, whatever. This person can stay. They'll, you know, be in their room or whatever, but go to the fair. Go to the fair. Go. And from kind of like testimonials and things, that wasn't very Amy. Like her getting all in, you know, her servant's face like that was not very like her. She was kind of known as this very very nice, beautiful, pretty woman. Not really like rude or indignant like that. Like, she was just, you know, very opposite of that. And her servants were like really shocked and kind of like confused and concerned and upset, but the lady said leave, let's go, like, we're all going to the fair, like, you know, have a great time. But then Amy was found kiboshed at the bottom of her stairs. So it is said that her death was actually caused by misadventure, which is basically just accidental. Well, Amy had 2 wounds on her head as well as a broken neck. Whenever at the bottom of the stairs, that's what the coroners and like jury of men that came to see her body and things like that is what they saw. Broken neck, 2 wounds. She probably fell down the stairs. Now, these stairs were actually not that, you're probably thinking of big, huge, long, grand staircase. No, it was like maybe like 8-ish steps. Like a very small, short staircase, nothing too crazy. And the lacerations in her head were actually 2 inches deep. That's actually kind of crazy deep. Like, that's not, you know, I don't feel like that's accident. What is that? Like, what was that? 2-inch deep wounds in her head. What is that? It is also to be noted that there was not a lot of blood that was kind of there. It was just, you know, kind of smattering. It was not like a 2-inch laceration on the head type of like blood scene. You know, like, it was not, you know, crazy bloody. Like, something is off. So Amy's funeral happens, and it's just kind of interesting because Dudley wasn't there. Like, her husband was there. He threw the funeral for her, totally fine. But like, he either wasn't there or was only there for like a moment. Like, he wasn't there for the whole thing. Like, something was, you know, a little wonky. And as we all know, Queen Elizabeth never married anybody. So if she was, she would have married, you know, Robert Dudley, but she didn't. So that leads us to the portion I like to call some theories. Now, over the centuries and years, other historians have come up with numerous theories about what exactly happened to Amy. And there's 3 kind of distinct ones. So let's kind of start from the most like plausible to kind of like the craziest, right? So the most, like, I guess plausible is that Amy just fell down the stairs and, like, broke her neck. So this is actually a theory that was, I believe, penned in, I think, 1956-ish by a historian named, I think it was Ian Aird, A-I-R-D, Aird, or anyway, Mr. Ian put forward the kind of idea, without any backing, that she had some type of illness that made her frail. Most likely some type of breast cancer, because there is records showing from her servants and things that Miss Amy Robsart Dudley was Milady of the Breast. Like, she had some type of issue with that, you know. So he thinks that maybe some type of, like, malignant type of thing was going through her bones, and she fell and she broke her neck. That's what happened. But it also doesn't really, you know, explain the lacerations on her head. So, great in theory. Actually, it's the one that has the most understanding. Because in 2008, somebody found the actual, like, coroner report of Amy that we, you know, didn't know of for centuries. In, like, the royal files and stuff like that. And so it did kind of reflect the idea that she did break her neck due to some type of, like, illness, and she had fell down the stairs. Like, that's what had happened. And there was other reports from doctors and things about Amy and her illnesses. The second theory is a little different. It's actually that Amy went down the sewer slides. And basically kind of checked out the hotel early, if you know what I mean. This is mostly due to her behavior the day of her death, which was her basically evacuating every single worker in her house, almost, like, kind of unexpectedly, and, like, y'all need to leave, y'all get out of here, like, y'all go, y'all need to get. And it just kind of was unheard of behavior for her. And she was kind of a depressed-ish woman. Her servants had kind of first-hand accounts and stuff in journals and things that she did battle with depression and things like that due to her being kind of ill. And also her husband kind of just being far away from her. She wasn't, like, the biggest fan of it, but, you know, that does weigh on somebody's psyche a little bit, you know. So this theory, I have hard kind of agreeing with it and, like, kind of substantiating it. Due to the fact there's actual records and things, Amy had made plans and stuff, you know, after that date that she passes away. So, for example, Amy actually had written her tailor or her, like, modiste or whoever, to make some garments and stuff for her, like, in a hurry. Like, you girl, I need these dresses. I need them by this date, which was, you know, way after she had passed away. I need them by this date, and so I can look, you know. And it was very said that Amy was very, very excited about these new dresses. Like, she was, you know, very, very excited to have them in her possession, to kind of stunt on the girlies. Like, she was very excited about these dresses. And she also had made other plans to visit Robert, I believe, as well. And so it just doesn't make sense that she made plans and then, you know, it just doesn't make any sense. The next theory is the most craziest theory and the most wide known, because it's just, people have taken it and run with it. And that is the theory that Robert Dudley killed his wife in association with Elizabeth I for them to get married. And this is mostly circulated because of rumors from, I believe it was a Spanish nobleman who didn't really like Robert Dudley and was kind of, like, not a fan of his, and kind of perpetuated that rumor of that, because he kind of basically wanted to be him. It was giving jealous. It was giving kind of bitter Betty Boots. It wasn't, you know. And because of that, and you know, rich people talk, everybody took with it and ran with it. Because he was spending so much time with Elizabeth, and they were kind of, it just seemed, it would make sense if they was, you know, doing stuff but people were not, they didn't like the idea that was happening, and so they just was like, yeah, that makes sense of why, you know, his wife is suddenly dead. That's crazy. And the biggest evidence of this is actually Elizabeth and Dudley, because they didn't get married. Because, one, if they did, it would have been absolutely detrimental to Elizabeth if they did so. And I think she probably knew that. And if, you know, Robert's wife just somehow come up dead and didn't, you know, they didn't divorce, it would be even more fishy. It would actually make more sense for them to get divorced and then him marry Elizabeth, which I feel like would have went over way better if, you know, Amy hadn't have croaked. You know what I mean? And so the theory of them doing that, conspiring together to kill Amy to get married, I just don't believe it, because of the fact that they never did. He actually marries this other woman like 20 or like 15 years after the fact, this other lady. Like, I just don't see it happening. I just don't see that that's what occurred. I just really don't. It also was just full gossip at that point. So there's really no evidence at all for it, other than, you know, tabloid things that people said and wrote about. So, but is it possible? Probably, maybe. Stranger things have happened in history. And those pretty much are the three theories of what happened to Amy. Now, let's get into my conclusion of what I believe happened and maybe, you know, what probably occurred. I really do think that Amy probably died of an accident, but maybe it wasn't the stairs. Okay, so get together with me. Historians have, for centuries, added theories to this list. This is the one I'm adding. I think Amy may have had an incident, and she, you know, did pass away, but it wasn't from the stairs. And I think one of the servants, like, saw it, and, like, maybe it was, like, a compromising issue. Maybe, like, she was, you know, naked, and she, like, fell on, like, something, you know. And, you know, they put her in, you know, her nightgown, and, you know, put her at the bottom of the stairs. You know what I mean? So, I think maybe that's what occurred, mixed with Amy's health issues. So, I think that because Amy had kind of metastatic breast cancer, and it kind of spread throughout her body, I think her bones were very fragile, and she was more susceptible to a broken neck than normal people. And I think she had some type of incident where she did fall, and maybe fall on something, and she broke her neck, and she, you know, but it wasn't the stairs. Because the lacerations that are in her head, just don't, they're 2 inches deep. Like, it seems a little crazy how deep some of the wounds were. And their stare, I don't feel like those stairs did that. I really don't. I really don't think so. And kind of like the little bit lack of blood at, you know, the stairs was kind of a given. Like, something seems fishy. I don't think she died on the stairs. I think she died somewhere else, and the servants placed her body there, just for, like, respect, and, like, maybe she, you know, it was out of the bathtub, like, or she, you know, something was, you know, amiss. Because I truly do not believe the two theories of Amy checking out early and the kind of murder plot between the Queen of England and her best friend, who, you know, they may or may not have been doing stuff to kill his wife. Like, I don't believe that's what occurred. I mean, it could have, but I personally don't. From the research that I've done, I don't think that's what happened. Due to the fact, I think if it was found out that Robert did do something to Amy, it would ruin his entire reputation, and Elizabeth's a little bit. So it doesn't seem, you know, having to ride down the sewer slide. I don't think she did that because she was looking forward to certain things that were happening, like, you know, later in the year, things like that. I just don't foresee herself doing that, especially when she had been depressed for that long, and, you know, she had gotten help from her servants and, like, confidants and stuff like that. It doesn't seem likely. Now, she very well could have, but also there was no note, there was no nothing, there was, you know, it just seems a little wonky. I think she had some type of incident, maybe coming out the bath or something like that, and, you know, broke her neck, had 2 very big lacerations. Servant found her when they got back from the fair, and they moved her body to the bottom of the stairs and kind of was like, oh, she, you know, went out, you know, down the stairs, I guess. But then also, wouldn't you just leave her outside of the bathtub? But also, like, if she was naked, maybe they respectively put her clothes on her and then put her at the bottom of the stairs. I don't know. Or Miss Clumsy Girl could have just, you know, for one, tumbled over and just had a Benny Hill sketch and just, you know what I mean? But that is the story of Amy Robsart. It's kind of unfortunate, it's tragic, and it's kind of short. And honestly, I really do believe one day we'll figure out what happened to her, but I don't think that day is soon. And maybe combined with some coroner reports and like other files from the 1500s, which are crazy to find. Finding something like that so far long ago is so rare. And if you do, girl, sell that, because it's worth money. But that is the story and death of Amy Robsart. What are your feelings? Put in the comments below, what are your theories? Do you agree with some of these, disagree with mine? Like, what do you think happened? Or have you looked at Amy's death before in the past and like researched? Or if you're using this video for research, hi, my name is Wendy Weather. You can use anything in this video to quote me at all. But yeah, what are your guys' feelings, thoughts, and conclusions? Put them in the comments below. I hope you guys have a super awesome day, and tune in next time for the next history video.